I'm going to talk about the biggest mistake runners make, and I've made this mistake plenty. There are a lot of mistakes out there, and this is the single biggest one that if you fixed, I think your running changes like a lot in leaps and bounds. I used to make this mistake a lot, especially when I first started getting into running, and this mistake is running your easy runs hard. And I know we've all heard this, but I think even people think they're running their easy runs easy, and they're not. When I started getting into running, I ran a 10K 5 days a week for like 3 weeks in a row. I was doing this One Punch Man workout. One Punch Man, he's in an anime. It's an anime, and he basically demolishes everyone with one punch. And they ask him, "How'd you get this good?" And he says, "I did a 10K, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 sit-ups every single day." And so the joke in the show is like, that's all you did, but that's all he did, and now he's, the best in the show. And so I thought, why don't I do this but 5 days a week? And unfortunately what happened is I started to get injured and overtrained, and I just had to take months off of running. Well, I realized something. I was running all my runs hard, and we need to define a couple terms as far as the way I define them for this to make sense. Because I think a lot of people, get into running and they hear this like, run your easy days easy and run your hard days hard. And they think they're doing that, but they're actually not. And I was in a very similar boat. So when I define easy, I mean low aerobic or like zone 1, zone 2 running. So what do I mean by that? Well, personally, I go by the Maffetone method or MAF method. I would Google that and find your heart rate zones, because simply put, what this Maffetone method is that you do all your runs in zone 1, zone 2 for, I think he says like 18 months or 2 years, and then from there you can start working on intensity. And what this does is it builds your aerobic base. And so when you're running easy runs, and easy runs are in that zone 2, heart rate, and for me that's like 141 beats per minute. When you're running your easy runs, you start to build this aerobic base. Then we have those two functions. You got your aerobic and anaerobic. And so aerobic is this, endurance, and anaerobic is the higher intensity, higher heart rate type work, intervals, tempo workouts, things like that. And so when you spend a lot of time running easy, and again, in this zone 1, zone 2 heart rate, and it's going to be different for everyone, so you need to look up the Maffetone method and determine your own heart rate zones. When you run easy, you build the base. And then from there, when you have a strong enough base, you can stack on and build on the intensity. So it's not an either or. It's when you have a good aerobic base, you can start stacking things on, and even when you're training for intensity or doing speed work, you should still have your easy days to maintain and build upon your base and recover. And so here's the mistake runners make, is they might go do like 7-minute miles one day, and that's their hard day, and then the next day they do some 8-minute miles, because that's easy, right? It's a little easier than what they were doing. Here's the problem. Their heart rate doesn't align with easy. And again, easy for me is zone 1, zone 2 heart rate running. And so they think it's easy because it's easier than what they were doing, but their heart rate is still up in the 160s, 170s, 180s. And so what this means is technically all your runs are hard based on heart rate. And so that's where I think the biggest hang up is with runners, is like, it was an easy day. And then you look at like their heart rate, and it's like your whole system, your heart rate, like all of that shows that you were stressing your system in a hard effort. And so it's really important you spend time building a base. And really, I built the base for a year straight before I really did anything that took my heart rate out of or into zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. And one thing that needs to happen with this is wearing a heart rate strap, I believe, because watch measurements are funky. And so if you get a heart rate strap and you start finding when your heart rate is in like zone 1, zone 2, and you just continue to walk, run in those runs to keep your heart rate under that, it's completely worth it. I mean, even if you just gave it like 10 weeks, you don't have to spend the rest of your life or a year doing this. give it 10 weeks of running in the zone 1, zone 2 heart rate after you figure out your heart rate zones. It's amazing because you become more efficient. So when I first started doing this type of running and building this aerobic base, I was doing 14-15 minute miles because I would run for a little bit and then my heart rate would tip into 143, 144, and then I would walk. And then I would run when my heart rate came down, and then I would walk when it went over. And over time, what I see today is I can run 9-minute, 10-minute miles at 140 beats per minute. So when you think about it this way, who's more efficient, or who is pushing themselves less, if that makes sense? Someone who's running 10-minute miles at 160 beats per minute, or somebody who's running 10-minute miles at 140 beats per minute, right? And it's obvious. Your heart is working less and less of an effort for the same pace. And so that is good for, obviously, just staying recovered, staying healthy, and, just being efficient. So this is something that is so important, and I'm going to preach this until I die as a runner, because when you can become more efficient and build that base, you're, one, going to become faster at some point, and also you're just going to stay more healthy opposed to running every single day hard. So start looking at your hard days and easy days in terms of heart rate, not your perceived effort or not the pace, because the pace does not mean anything. There are times where I would normally be able to run a 10-minute mile at an easy pace, easy heart rate, and I have to do 12-minute miles because I didn't sleep as well, or I ran an ultra the day before, right? So pay attention to this. This is super important, and if you fix this, I promise you're going to be much better as a runner when it comes to just being able to train more, stay healthy, and the gains you get. I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you on the trail sometime soon.